In this video, we're taking a look at the Xbox One versus the PS5. Now, the Xbox One has just been unveiled at E3, but the PS5 has not been announced yet. But information is circulating through the internet about a release date, which looks like it could be in 2018, and about the hardware. So let's take a look at some of the information that is circulating out there so far. First of all, the Xbox One and the PS4 was the first two flagships from Microsoft and from Sony. And if you look at the teraflops that they're able to process through the GPU, the PS4 came out with 1.8 teraflops and the Xbox One had 1.3. Now, a teraflop would be 1 trillion calculations per second. So if you tried to just count to 1 trillion, it would probably take you like approximately 30,000 years. I mean, it's that much data being processed. So the Xbox One with the 1.3 teraflops, on some of the games, it wasn't able to run those games at full HD or a full 1080p. The PS4 on almost all the games with the 1.8 teraflops was able to run the games at full HD. So they were down on some power against the PS4. Now, that was the first flagships that came out. Now, what happened was they had the 4K TV starting to come out. Now, let's take a look at the what the difference is between a 4K versus a 1080p. The original TVs, like the old-timey TVs, would be like a 480p. And then they moved up to a 720 and a 1080, but everything pretty much went to the full HD 1080p. So most TVs, most computer monitors are the 1080p. Now they started going up to the 4K TVs, the UHD, ultra high definition TVs, instead of just the HD. So the Xbox One, the original Xbox One, and the PS4 could run games at the 1080p. But once they started coming out with the 4K TVs, the Xbox One nor the PS4 could run at the 4K UHD. So they were kind of in a predicament, hey, should we bring out a new flagship, or should we, but they really weren't ready for their flagship like the PS5 and the Xbox One X. They weren't ready to bring those out. So what they did is they brought an intermediary, like Xbox One came up with the Xbox One S. Now the Xbox One S is capable of a 4K video, but it doesn't have enough teraflops to run games at 4K. So it can run the games at 1080p, the HD, and it can run video at 4K. The PS4 Pro that came out is 4.2 teraflops. You can see it's a huge leap, and it can run games at 4K resolution, which is 4 times 1080p. So 1080p has to push about 2 million pixels. So if you count 1080, here's an actual calculator, you can look at it. So the resolution would be 1080 by 1920. So if you count 1080 pixels up this way on your monitor, if you have a 1080p monitor or TV, and then you count pixels all the way to the right for 1920, and you times those, you'll get how many pixels that GPU is having to calculate per second. And a lot of games that they're running 60 frames per second, so in 60 seconds it's got to calculate 2 million pixels every 60 times a second, which is an incredible amount of information. So then if you go up to 4K, now you're talking about a resolution of 2160. So if you count up 2160 pixels, the little tiny pixels up this way, and then you go to the right and you count 300 or 3840 pixels, and you times that, you're going to be coming out with 8 million, a little over 8 million pixels that it has to process. So that's 4 times the information that it has to process. So going back to our teraflop comparison, if 1.8 and 1.3, this could, pretty much run 1080, and this could almost run, it could run some games at 1080. But if you times that by 4, so let's say this was 2 teraflops, you're going to really need 8 teraflops to run true 60 frames per second 4K games. That's 8 teraflops. So if we look at the Xbox One that just came out, or it just has been announced, it can run 6 teraflops. So this might be back in the same boat that we were with the original Xbox One versus the PS4, where the Xbox One can't run at a true 4K, but they say it can. But if you look at the PS5, the numbers that have been kicking around out there on the internet was anywhere from 8 to 10 teraflops. So, which would make sense, because if this could run at most games at HD 1080p, the PS4 at 1.8 teraflops, then 4 times that for 4K, then you would need 8 teraflops to 10 teraflops. So it would seem, by just looking at the hardware, that we might be back in the same predicament where the PS5 can run at a true 4K at 60 frames per second, versus the Xbox One X may only be able to run at maybe a little lesser than that, or less details. So the thing would be, do you want to wait? Do you want to keep your PS4, or if you have an Xbox One or a PS4 Pro, do you want to keep the PS4 Pro and just kind of wait for the PS5? And if you have an Xbox One S, are you going to go ahead and get the Xbox One X, to play the 4K games? If you have the PS4 Pro, you can already play 4K games. So it's something to think about. I think if I had a PS4, I would go ahead and I would wait for the PS5 to actually come out, and then I might just stay with the PS4 till the PS5 came out. And especially if you don't have a 4K TV yet, you might want to wait for them, get the 4K TV and the PS5, or when the Xbox One comes out, again, you might want to get the Xbox One X and a 4K TV if you don't already have one. All right, if you have any questions, please leave them below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this PS5 versus Xbox One X.